Had to clear some space on the computer. Getting set up down here in our game room on a card table. That's where I'll be doing my work for the time being, which is good. So continuing to set this room up. We got the old cat clock, a lot of my old toys in front of me to really try to set up the environment so it makes me feel good. My Scrooge McDuck behind me. So let's see. Had a great trip to Houston last week. The talk was very well received on mindset. And man, I felt alive doing that. That's part of what I was born to do. And it's important in life that you know what gets you going. Where do you feel that excitement? It's something I was talking about on one of my stories before I went on stage. It was in front of about 180 people. Was, do I feel nerves? Do I feel nervous? Of course. But reframe that. When you feel nervous or you feel nerves, what happens to your energy? It elevates. It goes up. Too many people go, I'm nervous, and they start panicking. That's good. It's more energy. Energy is the number one asset we have in life. But that went really well, and I got my new blue blocker glasses thanks to Roca and the recommendation of my good friend Jared. So shout out to Jared. Gave me a new hat, Jared, on Saturday as well. Elite, which is his electrical company. I love good gear. If you're going to get gear as a business, get good stuff that people are going to wear. I've gotten so many t-shirts over the years that are like cardboard. I'm like, why would somebody make this? Nobody in their right mind would wear it. Little side rant. Now today, I'm actually going to see my nephrologist after this episode. My 6 month, I got to go every 6 months, get my kidneys checked. Just, the way I was born with my kidneys. However, I got my blood work. My VLDL, I'll share a few of the numbers. I'm going to make a post this week before I get to the training stuff. For those of you that doubt if the Panda diet works, my VLDL was 7. My HDL was, I think, 63 or 64. My triglycerides were 30. To give you guys an idea, it's rare that you see VLDL that low, and that's your bad protein, the ones that can kind of puncture holes. Think of like BBs going through a tennis net. It's very low density lipoprotein. But the way you assess heart risk factor, heart disease factor, triglyceride to HDL ratio, 2 or below is good. I'm at a 0.5, guys. I've never seen that before in anybody else, but I've been doing this for 6 years now, eating the way I have. That's not dieting for my blood work or anything like that. All right, now today, I got to talking last week with a client, going over some training stuff. I'm like, man, I've forgotten probably more over the years than most people will ever know that are in the fitness field when it comes to strength training. I've had the best mentors in the world, the best coaches coaching me in the world. I've got an extensive library, so I'm going to go over some of that stuff today. So first thing, there's something called allostatic load. So if you're watching on Facebook, this cup of coffee I have, picture this cup. This cup or container, if you have a visual in your head, essentially that's, if it's full to the top, that's your body's ability to handle stress. It's known as allostatic load. Doesn't matter where that stress is coming from. But once that overflows, it overflows and you're tapped. This is where you're going to get sick, injured. You're going to start going into freeze mode, starting to be lethargic. So a workout serves two sides of the stress equation. A workout, an intense workout, is actually a stressor. It is a fight or flight experience. So it could add to your stress. However, the body internalizes trauma and energy and emotions, and it needs to be released. So a workout can actually help to release some pent-up stress as well. So it serves both sides of the coin. So keep that in mind. But keep in mind this idea of allostatic load. When you have a lot of stress in one area of your life, back off on the intensity of the workouts. Start doing more walking. Think of this stuff, all right? Second thing I wanted to go over, something that I really learned big time from Louie Simmons when he was mentoring me before he passed. Louie has Westside Barbells, strongest gym in the world, invite only. Actually went out there to train with Action Jackson. I think that was 2017. But Louie was the man. Great documentary, if you want to know more about him, is Westside versus the World. Now, these guys, when you get to max weights, these guys were world champions in the bench, squat, and deadlift. They would never train if they were doing bench like 2 weeks in a row. 1 week it might be a max bench. Next week it might be a bench to 2 boards. Next week it might be a bench with chains, bench with bands, bench to a pin. They kept cycling the max effort lift. Now what this does, Louis found out, it makes it so the nervous system doesn't get fried. Just changing it up a little bit allowed them to lift maximally pretty much all the time. So if you have a deadlift, a squat, or a bench goal, don't just keep hitting the deadlift, squat, and bench. Vary the movement a little bit. The good strength coach can show you how to do that. Thank you for the thumbs up, whoever that was. Appreciate that. Now, another thing I want to go over. I get a lot of people that have shoulder injuries, whatever, knee injuries. Now, the worst thing you can do when you get injured is stop training. Now, you can train the good side. So let's say my left arm was injured. If I train my right side, it has a crossover effect to the left side. It's not going to atrophy, meaning shrink as much. It's not going to get as weak. You're not going to get lopsided. Get that out of your mind. This is the way the nervous system is designed. Now, let's say you weren't injured. You can still output more strength with one limb unilaterally than if you're doing bilateral, moving both at the same time. Right? There's like a governor that goes on. And you will get a lot more functional training and core stimulation when you train one limb at a time. If you don't believe me, try a heavy one-arm dumbbell bench. Don't hold on to the bench. Watch how your core has to activate. Otherwise, you're going to flip off of the bench. So something to definitely keep in mind. And I've found that that's very good if you're traveling. It kind of rejuvenates the nervous system, I find, a one-sided training. If you're traveling somewhere, find a gym, hit some unilateral type of stuff. So I've gotten injured a lot in my career. I'm active. Very rarely in the weight room have I gotten injured, though. One of my friends sent me a picture of a hamstring tear he has. It's all black and blue. That happened to me a few years ago. Really bad. The whole leg was black. 5 weeks later, I climbed Mount Washington. So how do I recover from injuries in record time? Now, part of that is genetic, but a big part of it is the protocols that I use. Now, when I ruptured my first patellar tendon, I figured a lot of this out. The worst thing you can do is rest. You need to get the blood pumping. Now, be mindful of the joint or the muscle that's injured, but you still want to move it gently. For example, my right knee, played basketball yesterday. About once a year, I'll rupture a cyst that's on the back of my knee, Baker cyst. Knee gets tight, cracks, swells up. So what do I have on right now is my neoprene sleeve. So sleeves, when you can wear them, they keep the joint warm. They keep everything moving forward. Keep the joint warm and compressed. That's a heat of killing. We want blood flow going there. Movement, as I said. These things are critical. Think about when you get injured, one of the things that happens, you get depressed if you stop working out. You stop doing what you love to do. Figure out, train unilateral, like I just mentioned. Heat, compression, and movement are the keys to healing. Heat, not ice, not rest, not elevation. Heat, compression, and movement. So I remember when I did my hamstring, I was in so much pain. I was like shaking that night. And Devin, next morning, I get up early. She says, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to work out." I said, "What do you mean you're going to work out with that leg?" So what do you think I was going to miss? And get in there and move. And the blood flow helps, right? Even if you're not training that injured part, you still got to get blood flowing. Blood is life. Blood carries oxygen. Now you combine this with fasting, you're going to get much better blood flow. So fasting also can help you heal injuries. Just like when you were sick. What do you naturally want to do? You want to fast. So I know it seems very simple, but if you follow what I just told you about recovering from an injury, you'll recover much, much quicker. So fat grips are these attachments that you can put onto a dumbbell or barbell. I got these years ago when I was looking at fat grip training. Charles Poliquin would always rave about it, but fat grip bars are not very practical and they're very expensive. So this company that makes these fat grips, they have orange and blue, they might have different colors at this point, but they make the handle thicker. Now, the first year that I opened Newell Strength, the actual gym, 2011, I think I went into that summer benching like 315. And I wanted to focus on my bench. Now, the only change up I made the whole summer, I didn't do anything specific to increase my bench besides my regular workouts. Not any extra triceps or anything like that. I use fat grips on anything I can use them on. My bench went up to 365. Later to peak at 400. Now, why would training with fat grips increase overall strength? Well, your hands are very tied into your nervous system. Okay? They're very tied into the nervous system. And they're going to allow you to output more strength, more force. So training your grip will make you stronger, almost instantly. And your grip can save your life in many ways. I want you to think about that. So why is the core usually the limiting factor when it comes to doing full range of motion? Squats. So think about this. A lot of people say, well, I can't get down that deep. Well, maybe your belly's in the way. That's possible. Maybe you do have some type of joint restriction. But a lot of times, if you lay somebody on the ground, it's okay, now let's try to get the knees into the chest. Again, assuming the belly's not in the way, they can do it. Why? Because we added stability. The core no longer has to fire to stabilize. Just as like you were on ice and you're going to throw a punch, it's not going to be very forceful. Firing a cannon out of a canoe, it's going to be all over the place, right? There's no stability. So I figured this out in my first knee injury too, because the knee was locked and wanted to go through a certain range. Once I started doing Hatfield squats or cage squats, we hold on to the cage, I was able to go all the way down. That's interesting. I'm adding stability in. So your core a lot of times is going to limit your range of motion, particularly in the squat. And lastly, before I go see the doc, one big thing I figured out with elbow tendonitis, which usually affects men. Sometimes it'll get the women, the ladies, inside or outside, so medial or lateral. A lot of times it's a function of a weak grip. There, easy, buddy. It's a function of a weak grip. Now, how do you do this? Start adding grip training. Start using the fat grip. Start doing plate holds at the end of your workout, heavy dumbbell holds. Keep a thick rubber band in your car. Work the extensors. Put it around your fingers. Work the extensors as you're driving. Easy, guys. Get a gripper. Keep that in your car. When you're driving around, work on the grip. 90% of the time, when I have guys do this, the tendinosis clears up in the elbow. They're like shocked. Well, I can't believe it. Well, usually wherever you're getting pain is just a symptom. It's not the root of the problem. Work the extensors, work the flexors of the grip. Plus, too, if you're doing this when you're driving around, you're activating your brain. You're increasing blood flow to the brain. Going back to what I told you with how tied in your hands are to the nervous system. So those are just some training secrets. So many more. I'm going to start doing more training episodes because that's my first passion. And not sure if you can hear me with the dogs barking, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back. Make sure you're sharing this with people if you like it. Let me know that you like it. Keep an eye out. March newsletter is going to be sick. It's my fat loss protocol I'll be using this year. It'll be about 12 pages. Lay out everything, the workouts, all that type of stuff, philosophy behind it. It's almost time for the fat shredder, guys. And that newsletter is $49 per month. It gets mailed to your house every month, old school. I will catch you all later.